The sun was sinking low over a field of gold and wheat when it all began. Senator John Kennedy, known for his sharp wit and unapologetic style, had come to a small rural town for a community meeting. He expected polite questions, maybe even a few laughs, but what he got instead was a moment that would test not only his patience but also his humanity. From the back of the barn-turned-meeting hall, a farmer named Thomas Harlan rose to his feet. His clothes were worn, his hands calloused, and his face carried the lines of a man who had spent a lifetime working under the sun. But his voice was clear, sharp, and unshaken. "Senator Kennedy," Thomas began, his tone almost challenging, "you come here talking about policies and numbers, but do you have any idea what it means to break your back for a crop that barely pays the bills? Do you know what it's like to pray for rain, only to watch your fields wither when the sky stays dry, or to beg the bank for another extension, knowing full well your children might inherit your debts instead of your land?" The crowd stirred. Some nodded, others looked nervously at Kennedy, waiting for his reaction. The senator adjusted his tie and stepped forward, meeting Thomas's eyes with an unwavering gaze. "Thomas," he said, his southern drawl steady, "I may not have dirt under my fingernails like you, but don't mistake that for ignorance. I grew up around folks just like you. My daddy taught me that a man who works the land works harder than most men in suits. But here's where I'll push back: you're not the only one carrying a burden. Every taxpayer, every small business, every family trying to make ends meet is facing their own kind of storm." Thomas's jaw tightened. "That's easy for you to say, Senator. You don't wake up at 4 a.m. just to keep food on other people's tables. You don't feel the fear that one wrong season could wipe out everything your family has built for generations." The debate grew tense. The air felt heavy. Each word exchanged carried not just disagreement but raw emotion of the kind born of years of struggle, sacrifice, and the need to be heard. The audience was silent now, caught between the fire of the farmer and the steel of the senator. Finally, John Kennedy did something unexpected. He set down his notes, rolled up his sleeves, and said quietly, "Thomas, you're right. I don't live your life. I don't sweat under the sun or fight the land for every dollar. But maybe it's time I try to understand better than I ever have. Tomorrow morning, if you'll let me, I'll come to your farm. I'll work alongside you, not as a senator, not as a politician, but as a man who needs to learn." The room gasped. Thomas blinked, stunned. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, with a reluctant nod, he replied, "Be at my place at dawn. Don't wear those fancy shoes." The next morning, true to his word, John Kennedy showed up at Thomas's farm before the sun had risen. His polished shoes were gone, replaced by borrowed work boots. His pressed shirt was tucked under a rough denim jacket. For the next 12 hours, the senator hauled hay, fed cattle, mended fences, and worked the fields alongside Thomas and his family. By noon, his hands were blistered. By evening, his body ached in ways he had never known. And yet, for the first time, he truly saw the world through the eyes of the man who had challenged him. He saw the pride in Thomas's son as he carried water buckets, the quiet determination in Thomas's wife as she cooked for her family, and the way the land, though unforgiving, held their history, their legacy, their very souls. As the sun set again, Kennedy sat on the back porch, sweat dripping down his forehead. Thomas handed him a glass of sweet tea and broke the silence. "Didn't think you'd last the day," he said with a faint smile. Kennedy chuckled. "Didn't think I would either. But I'll tell you this, Thomas, you've taught me more in one day than a stack of policy papers ever could." For the first time since their heated exchange, the two men laughed together. The anger had given way to respect, and the distance between politician and farmer began to close. When Kennedy returned to Washington, He carried more than tired muscles and sore hands. He carried a renewed sense of purpose. He stood before his colleagues and spoke with conviction, not from statistics but from the raw truth he had lived for a single day. He fought for fairer policies for farmers, for small towns, for the men and women who fed the nation but often went unheard. And Thomas, though still skeptical of politics, told anyone who would listen, "That man came to my farm, and he worked like the rest of us." Maybe, just maybe, he understands now. The story spread, inspiring people across the country. It wasn't about who won the debate or who had the sharper tongue. It was about what happened after the choice to step into someone else's world, to listen, to learn, and to find common ground in a time when division seemed easier than understanding. In the end, what began as a heated argument in a crowded barn became something far greater, a reminder that respect is born not from agreement, but from the willingness to walk, or even toil, in another man's shoes.